Editor's note: the below article contains spoilers for Season 3 of Barry.The Season 3 finale of the grim yet gripping Barry has now been unleashed upon the world, a terrific and terrifying conclusion to an incredible run of television. It all wrapped up with a rapid succession of both extremely well-directed and well-acted scenes by Bill Hader. Over the course of the last 3 seasons, and this season especially, Hader's titular Barry Berkman has been slipping further into darkness. We have seen him desperately try to find some sort of path to salvation to make up for all the blood on his hands, notably the heartless murder of both Detective Janice Moss and his friend Chris. Repeatedly he has promised that he will give up this life of killing, though he keeps getting drawn back in both by circumstances and, importantly, his own choice to continue onwards down this path of death. In the final episode of Season 3, he was confronted by Albert twin, James Hiroyuki Liao, who served alongside him years ago and knows all the despicable things Barry has done since in his life. Collider video of the day. Against the bleak backdrop where Barry dumps his kills, Albert first seems angry with him. He shouts at him about all he has done. Barry doesn't utter a word and drops to his knees, unable to justify himself any longer. Albert is just about to shoot him before showing mercy. As a broken Barry cowers screaming before him, Albert says that he has seen evil and doesn't believe that his friend is that. He thanks him for how he has helped him to have a new life, a complicated situation in its own right that involved Barry committing some of his very first horrible acts, but says that he has to stop what he is doing. Of course, we see that doesn't happen as Barry soon sets out to kill Janice's father, Jim, at the end of the episode where he is subsequently arrested. He did so when lured in by Henry Winkler's Gene Cousineau, who gives him up after a masterclass of a scene in a garage where Jim manages to get through to him to bring Barry in for his crimes. The results of this conversation are as cataclysmic as they are cathartic. The finale is tragically titled "Starting Now," a reference to how Barry would frequently say he is going to turn his life around. The more and more he has said it, the more hollow it has sounded. Now, we see how it is a completely empty promise that Barry says mostly to bring himself some sense of false comfort. The fundamental question at the core of all this is whether Barry is evil. He is doing everything he can to convince himself that he isn't, though even he doesn't seem to believe it anymore. This is what Hader has been most interested in grappling with, unflinchingly showing the callous cruelty of the character, which he then juxtaposes against some of his decency that peeks through at brief moments. In this episode, Barry seemed ready to take the fall for Sally killing a man. At the same time, he had been deeply controlling and abusive towards her, calling into question the value of him falling on his sword. Barry going into the house to kill Jim followed a similar pattern, as he seemed to want to do so in order to stop Gene from doing it. Or, at least, that is what he would tell himself. Any such rationales for all of these actions are getting increasingly tenuous. It doesn't matter if Barry, in his heart of hearts, is a good person. If he keeps doing evil things, then he will become indistinguishable from the worst parts of himself. It is taking a toll on him, yes, but it is also the only thing he seems to continually want to do. Albert gave him a way out, a chance at salvation by finally stopping the killing, which lasted all of several hours before blowing up. Barry could have taken the fall for killing Janice without then having to also kill her father. Yet that is precisely what he set out to do and would have achieved had he not been walking into a trap. While Gene deceived him, an acting coach who finally gave his best performance ever, it didn't take much of a push to get his student in that room. As he becomes surrounded by the police, Barry again doesn't say a word as the realization of what has happened washes over his face. He doesn't shout at Gene or get angry. He just looks sad as his long sordid past has finally caught up with him. There is no starting now, as Albert also told him in the prior scene. Barry seems to know this, the gravity of what happened sinking in, as he will likely never be able to start fresh. He waited too long, always justifying one more act of violence until it was too late. His own worst self won out, the evil taking hold of his hand as he raised his gun in an act that has the potential to forever seal his fate. He won't be able to get out of this so easily. Barry is a broken man who broke others. It is unlikely this will ever be repaired. In the final shot of the Season 3 finale, this is hit home. Jim stands outside, illuminated by the lights of the departing police as he says farewell to Jean. Inside the house, there is a photo of his departed daughter who will never come back because of what Barry did to her. Nothing can ever repair such harm, something that both Jim and Barry know. There is no victory at this moment, only sadness at the crushing and devastating sense of loss. There is a better version of Barry in there, one who could have stopped before ever meeting Janice. It just is buried under his own broken nature, a killer who keeps killing despite his pledges not to. It destroyed his life and countless others. In this final scene, Hader has brought this complex character study to a tentative end, and the show doesn't let him or us off the hook as it grapples with the horrors of a hitman who keeps hurting everyone around him. He was a man with the potential for good, but now, his own worst instincts have brought doom on what may be his last chance at salvation. All the worst parts of Barry Berkman have been laid bare, the evil within him winning out once more.